Once upon a time. Welcome to Australian Book Lovers, your destination for imagination.
Australian Book Lovers acknowledges First Nations peoples and recognises their continuous connection to country, community and to culture. We pay our respects to elders past, present and emerging, and honour the sharing of traditional stories passed down through generations. We're committed to a safe and inclusive welcome for authors and readers of all cultures and backgrounds, including people of LGBTQIA+ communities and their families. Hello listeners, at ABL our mission is not only about celebrating and sharing fabulous Australian and Indigenous authored books of all genres with readers around the globe, it's about finding fantastic resources and information for authors looking to write their own book, or two, or three. And what better resource than getting into the writer's room with some of those authors and asking them to share their experience. We are on episode 168. I'm Veronica Strachan, aka V.E. Patton, author of Memoir, picture books, sci-fi and fantasy, as well as some personal development. And I'm here on Wurrung Wurundjeri country in southeast Australia.
And I'm Laurie Bell, science fiction and fantasy author, flash fiction writer, short story writer, and voracious reader of all sorts. And also coming to you from Wurundjeri Wurrung country today.
Fantastic. All right. We have three fantastic memoir authors. So we are meandering through memoir. What I could think is, and meandering I think is a good word for memoir. And we have three debut authors. We've got Danielle Sartorelli. Hello, Danielle.
Hi, how you going?
Good. Angelina Mastrippolito.
Hi, Veronica.
And Bo Kitty.
Hey, everyone. Hello.
Fantastic. All right. Danielle, we are going to start with you. Whose country are you on tonight?
I'm on Woodjuck Noongar country.
Beautiful.
In WA.
Lovely, lovely country over there. Spent a couple of years over in that area, over in Perth and up and down the coast. It is pretty gorgeous. And we're just saying we're a little bit jealous of your sunshine, but that's all right. So let me tell you a little bit about Danielle. So she is a memoirist driven by a deep need to tell the unvarnished truth about love, loss, and the complexities of family. Writing under the name Donna in her debut memoir, Life in Instalments, Danielle draws from her own life to explore the raw and painful reality of being a sister to someone lost to addiction and crime. Her writing is marked by emotional honesty and a fearless willingness to confront the chaos that can arise from even the most ordinary beginnings. Through her storytelling, Danielle gives voice to the often silent struggles families face behind closed doors. Struggles with guilt, hope, betrayal, and the heartbreaking realisation that sometimes love isn't enough to save someone. Life in Instalments is not just her story, it's a reflection of the turmoil and resilience so many experience but rarely speak about. Danielle writes to heal, to understand, and to connect with anyone who has lived through the wreckage of a loved one's choices and emerged searching for meaning. Danielle lives in Australia with her husband of 23 years and their two sons. When she's not writing or teaching, Danielle is busy tending all the farm animals on the family's hobby farm. So,
Fantastic.
Yeah, what kind of animals, Danielle?
Oh, I've got some goats, sheep, alpacas.
Yeah,
chickens.
fantastic. So, do you share them? Do you?
No,
do they
they're
fall or
purely
anything?
pets. They're
Absolute
purely
pets. Yeah, that's
No, if
lovely.
they've got a name, they're a pet.
Oh, yeah.
Any
For
chooks
sure.
there, Danielle? Because
I have got some chooks.
Veronica could talk to you for a while about chooks.
About chooks, yeah. I do love my
yeah.
chooks. They all have names, and yeah, I'm a vegetarian, so I don't even eat their eggs. But that's okay. We do that. All right. Let's tell the listeners about Life in Instalments. This chronicles the heartbreaking journey of being a sister to a brother lost to addiction and crime, revealing how even the most ordinary moments can give way to unimaginable chaos. Through years of struggle, Donna grapples with the painful reality of her brother James's descent into drug addiction, criminal activity, and the relentless toll it takes on their family. From childhood adventures filled with innocence to the crushing weight of legal troubles and strained relationships, her story vividly portrays the turbulence and heartbreak that addiction inflicts on everyone it touches. As James spirals further into manipulation and self-destruction, Donna and her family face impossible choices. How much can they sacrifice to save him, and how to navigate the betrayal, criminal acts, and emotional devastation that follows. With unflinching honesty, Life in Instalments explores the complex dynamics of family, love, guilt, and the devastating consequences of addiction. It is a story of hope, heartbreak, and the gut-wrenching reality of trying and failing to save someone you love from themselves. This is a must-read for anyone who has experienced the impact of addiction, crime, or the struggle to heal and rebuild amidst the wreckage of a loved one's choices. Powerful story, Danielle.
Thank you. Yes.
Yeah, absolutely powerful. And this is a question that I'm going to ask everyone. So, the others can have a little bit of a think as well. But given that it is such an incredibly personal and, deeply charged and emotional story, what inspired you to share it with other people?
Yeah, I didn't, set out to start writing a book. It began as a form of therapy, I guess. I just put my thoughts down and my experiences down on paper. It was just one raw, honest chapter at a time. And it
Mm-hmm.
became a way of processing the things that I'd carried for years.
Mm,
As it all came together, I guess it became more about telling my story to get the truth out there, to
yeah.
not live in judgment anymore or fear of people or being shamed by people about the story, and in the process maybe being able to help others.
Yeah, fantastic. And it is amazing with memoir. There is just often people who needed to hear your story right at that moment, wherever they were in their life.
Yes.
Yeah,
Lovely.
Yeah.
yeah, for sure. All right.
Yeah.
Let's
All right.
go, Laurie.
Yep, jump into, and I'll tell you all a bit about Angelina Mastrippolito. So Angelina grew up among the sugarcane fields of far north Queensland. Her family lived in the small town of Ingham alongside other Italian migrants, and it was known as Little Italy. After university, Angelina became the first actuary from far north Queensland, and when she qualified in 1988, she was one of only 30 female actuaries in Australia. She worked in the finance industry while looking after her two children and an accommodation business in the Snowy Mountains. She was a trusted advisor to large Australian and multinational companies and held senior executive positions, including CEO and COO, in a number of superannuation funds. She's currently a director of the Brave Foundation and on the committee of the Sydney and Inner West U3A and Inner West Speakers. She's also a director of ASEAN, an organisation that aims to build a culturally diverse community in Australia in order to promote cross-cultural relations and interfaith tolerance. Angelina's love of writing started in her late 50s, though she's been an avid reader all her life. Angelina lives in Sydney's inner west and is the proud mother of two adult children and two beloved golden retriever dogs. She took up ballroom dancing in her 60s, and in her spare time, you'll find her perfecting her Argentine tango. Wow.
It is brilliant. Yes. Almost, we need to ask you to give us a demo about that. Zoom's a bit hard to pick.
I recommend the Argentine tango for anybody. It's just a
Wow.
wonderful game. Yeah.
Energetic
Makes you-
too.
Sorry?
Energetic too.
Oh no, it's good. And you feel the music and it's just wonderful. So nothing
So
like being in your 60s anyway and doing it. So
that's great. So let me tell everyone a little bit about La Seconde, or Les Seconde, I should say. Is that correct?
Les Seconde, beautiful.
Beautiful,
Yeah.
thank you. When Angelina discovers what has gone unspoken in her parents' and grandparents' lives, she is forced to reevaluate her entire upbringing. Angelina's childhood in the far north Queensland cane fields is full of adventure, but it is also turbulent. Her beloved grandfather was an ardent fascist. Her father and grandfather struggle with the ferocious undercurrents of an unspoken past. Her mother, as the dutiful Italian wife, cannot speak about how she feels. Instead, she teaches her young daughter a revolutionary song that she knows will irritate her father-in-law. As an adult, Angelina must deal with different sets of preconceived notions about who she should be and what she should do, as well as the inherited trauma of the second generation. She enters corporate Australia at a time when women's voices were only starting to be heard. Often, she is the only woman in the room and the only person with Italian heritage. Choosing between what is expected of her as a woman and what she feels she must do will have consequences. Angelina reconstructs her family's diaspora story from World War II Italy to the cane fields at a time when Australia's White Australia policy was still in place. Their fractured history takes her to Mussolini's rise to power, German-occupied Crete, the Gustav line in southern Abruzzo, and Adelaide's Loveday internment camp. After years of conforming to what she thought it meant to be Australian, she realises that her identity as a second-generation immigrant woman, one of Les Seconde, is a lot more complex. Goodness, as Veronica said, let's ask that question. So what inspired you to share this story?
Oh, Laurie, it actually started as a completely different story. So I started writing one book and ended up being a completely different book. So it was, I sort of just wanted to work out what my childhood was about, because it was sort of, I knew there was something, and our parents only spoke briefly about the war, and my grandfather only spoke briefly. So I sort of set out to sort of try to work out what was going on. And then I went down rabbit holes and different rabbit holes and ended up writing a very different book, and actually discovered so much more about their past that I really thought I would. So it really, there was undercurrents and undercurrents. But it also became a bit of a history of Italian immigration, because when I started to follow their stories, I started to, because you can only, history is really important, because I wanted to get underneath the history so I could understand them. So I wanted to understand why my father was a fascist, why my father was like he was, why my mother, couldn't speak. So to work out my life, I had to work out their lives. So it ended up completely different. So I think it was the third version that I ended up publishing. So
Amazing.
yeah. So I think that's memoirs like that. I think you start
down one way and head down another.
Exactly. So, which makes it a very interesting medium, Laurie.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Like
Can I
peeling
just
the
ask-
layers. Yeah,
Can
go
I
ahead,
just
Bo.
Yeah.
ask Angelina, was the song that your mother taught you Bella Ciao?
No, I actually have Bella Ciao in the book about the
Oh,
Italian resistance for where she lived.
Awesome.
It was Avanti Popolo.
Okay,
So
I've heard
yeah.
that
Do you know that song, though?
No, I
Yeah.
don't. I'm going to look it up.
Yes. So it was a song that was part of the socialism movement in Italy, and the fascists were against the socialists. So that's why, anyway, that's why it had that sort of meaning. But
Just
Quiet rebellion.
love the idea of
yeah.
a song that's going to drive grandpa nuts. I like
Yeah,
that.
and I was only about 5 or 6, and I just sang it. So it was like, so I actually worked out why she taught it to me.
That's
So it was,
amazing.
as part of a memoir, I think. So
Yeah.
Mm.
Brilliant.
yeah, but Bella Ciao is the most beautiful song, though. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Let's tell people about Bo. So Bo Kitty is a writer, coach and cultural disruptor. I love that. Based in which of course is Melbourne. With roots in the underground music and art scene, her work blends confessional grit with poetic insight, exploring grief, identity and transformation through a fiercely personal lens. When she's not writing, Bo runs training and coaching programs under her platform Reality Check, challenging individuals and institutions to engage more honestly with identity, creativity, and change. She also runs a B2B agency called The Real Army, empowering freelancers. She's performed and spoken across the country, from festivals to libraries to book clubs, and remains a loud voice for radical authenticity, creative survival, and emotional intelligence in chaotic times, which is brilliant. So, having read everybody's bio, you can see why I have you three beautiful people in the room. Yeah, there's a little bit in common there.
Yeah, there's some cycle breaking going on here.
Oh,
Yes.
yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Lots and lots. All right, let's read the blurb for Always Eat the Weird Stuff, which is just fantastic.
Love the
Okay.
title.
It is a genre blurring work that moves between confessional autofiction, cultural memoir, and punk prose. Set against a backdrop of Melbourne's gritty underground scenes, this book is a raw, sharply written meditation on grief, identity, transformation, and the strange rituals we use to find meaning. Bo navigates the cracks between chaos and clarity, recounting the highs and heartbreaks of a life lived at the fringes of the mainstream. She writes with the urgency of someone who has seen what lies beneath the surface and refuses to look away. These stories move through clubs, bedrooms, forests, festivals, family homes, and sacred inner spaces, all while asking the reader to confront what they avoid and to find grace in the discarded and the overlooked. This is not a clean literary narrative. Always Eat the Weird Stuff does not wrap itself in neat arcs or typical redemption tropes. It is messy, non-linear, and unapologetically alive, just like the world it reflects. It's a book for anyone who has ever loved too hard, lost their way, stood at the edge, or cracked open instead of shutting down. Bo's writing style is equal parts lyrical and blunt. Think punk rock meets prose poetry. Think Joan Didion if she'd been raised on warehouse parties and Riot Girl zines, which I had to look up and see who Riot Girl was. I now know a little bit more. Bo is unafraid to expose personal failures, question cultural myths, or dig into uncomfortable truths. But beneath it all, there is a deep sense of care for her people, for the broken parts of self, and for a culture in desperate need of re-enchantment. If you've ever danced through heartbreak, searched for sacredness in strange places, or tried to write yourself back into wholeness, this book will meet you there. Wow. Fantastic, Bo. So
Yes, tell us more.
you on Wurundjeri country tonight?
I'm on Wurundjeri Woiwurrung as well. Yep.
Beautiful.
Yep.
Lovely. Yeah. Launch into it for me. Tell me why the sharing of this incredibly personal story.
Well, it was honestly my community that pushed me to do it because I was sharing. I had a really big identity reveal, family secret come out at 38 years old that I didn't know that ties into Angelina's story actually. And yeah, I shared a lot of it vulnerably online. My writing, I've been writing forever, but my community really pushed me to actually make it a book. So, because I was already doing a lot of advocacy about breaking generational trauma and changing timelines and reinventing your story and all this kind of stuff on the internet. So, that is why my book is 94 chapters, because some of them did appear on the internet first in shorter prose. But yeah, basically it was a really good therapeutic process for me writing that book. And yeah, I feel like it was very healing actually to launch it out into the world to be other people's problem after I burnt it in a fire 5 times while I was writing it.
Oh,
Yeah.
That's the
So
way
yeah,
to do with your old drafts. Yep, that's good.
very cathartic. And
Yes.
yeah, it's been like a year and a half since I published it, and I'm not cringing about it yet. So I think that's really
great.
good.
That's
Yep.
positive. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, it was just a really important process for me, I think. And I really did also try and shape it into something that would have value for others. Because my greatest fear, I mean, I'm sure everybody here is aware of imposter syndrome and how it plays out as a writer when you're just by yourself all the time, you know. But yeah, I really tried to shape it into something that was going to help other people as well, rather than just being, my greatest fear was that it was going to be a Dear Diary. And I just really didn't want that. Um, which I think is like the memoir fear, isn't it? Really, you know, that this stuff shouldn't be shared in this way or whatever. Um, but yeah, it's been ultimately an amazing process, and yeah, I'm proud of it.
Fantastic.
Good. And Bo, I have to say, I love there was a comment you made in some of the responses you sent to some of our questions where you mentioned that you've had people say reading short chapters have made them feel smarter. Oh, I got through more. I feel much smarter reading it, which is to me an extraordinary thing anyway, because just reading a book, writing a book, you're completely smart enough to to read,
Yeah,
but
well, I
short
think
chapters.
I'm in the creative industries, and to be honest, like I would say 80% of the people I know are neurodivergent of some kind. Like that's why they're creatives.
Yeah.
And that's why I've been a coach for 15 years, helping them organize their life, in a way, and marketing and all that stuff. But yeah, I also like the fact that you can kind of read a chapter on its own and it stands on its own. It doesn't, you don't need to know the befores and afters. Is sort of like they all exist in a liminal space, and yet there is a sort of arc over years. Um, but yeah, I really, a lot of my friends, they bought the book, they have not opened the book, So it wasn't until I released the audiobook that people actually, devoured it. And so I realized that for my audience, like the audiobook is almost just as important as the print book, if not more.
It's actually really,
To
really
release
interesting
at
to
the
hear
same
as
time,
writers.
they have to come out on the same day,
Yeah. Yeah.
like the
Yes.
proper published books do.
Yeah. But when you're working indie, of course, and you're doing it all yourself, you've just got to, pace yourself and keep your head above water. Yeah,
Yes.
fantastic. All right. Can I ask you to have a think about when did you first admit that you were a writer? Because that's a little bit different for each of you. So Danielle.
Yes. I don't think I've ever really admitted that I am a writer. I've always seen myself more as a storyteller than anything else.
Love that.
Writing just became the way that those stories came out.
Yeah.
It's probably only recently that I've started to call myself an author, and even that feels a little bit accidental, something that I just grew into rather than consciously chose.
Yeah, no, I really love that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Story, and I think most authors find themselves that they are storytellers. And Angelina, you were saying about you began one book, but then it kind of morphed into another as the
Yes.
story began to tell itself. So when did you first admit that you were a writer?
One of the hard things about being, I think, a woman of my generation is that you couldn't fancy yourself as a writer because you had things to do, people to feed, and a whole heap of stuff. So it was something I've always wanted to do, is write a book. And so, but it was only late 50s where I actually started, when life becomes a bit simpler, I actually started to entertain that perhaps I could write, So it's very late stages for me. And it's just giving myself permission to say I'm a writer, which is a big deal. Just give myself that permission.
Yeah.
Because it's not corporate. It's not, it's so
It's not a
different.
report. It's not a strategic plan or anything like that. It's a creative fiction. Yeah, creative non-fiction, I beg your pardon. Yeah, brilliant.
I started writing a blog in my late 50s, which was my little entry into writing. So some of the chapters actually reflect some of the blog. So same as Bo, but I didn't, wasn't the whole book. But that's when I started to say, perhaps I should allow myself the permission to be a writer. So
fantastic.
Yeah.
Yeah, beautiful. And Bo, sorry, Angelina, yep.
No, that's okay. It's just I think it's a women's thing as well of my generation too. Anyway.
Yeah. As somebody who started creative writing in their late 50s, I will be right up there with you. Thank you. Yes. We need more of us. So, Bo, a writer for a long time, but in all sorts of different mediums. So tell us about that.
Well, I just always knew I was a writer, and I work with all these amazing, talented creatives and musicians and painters, and I know that I'm not that, and so I do all of the other stuff in the background. But yeah, recently, I knew I was a writer, but I honestly felt I knew I wasn't a novelist. A person that writes a story that goes for 350 pages and goes from one end to the other with this nice, and I think I grew up in an academic family and I was an academic. And I think, there was sort of an invalidation to how I wrote in prose. And because my writing went viral on the internet, it wasn't real writing. It was, it only had an audience on the internet sort of thing. Yeah, sort of had that invalidated by other academics and men as well in my network. Gen X men still, were from that sort of mindset that, men write books and women write recipes, type vibe.
Ouch.
So yeah, so there's been some of my own roadblocks in the way of that. And it was funny because a couple of years ago, like I'm 46 and I was getting all like, oh, these creatives are they're really famous, some of the people I know now. And I was like, I don't know if I'm really famous, you know. And I was like, what creative thing can I like honor, give myself permission to do? And I was thinking about jewelry and pottery and all this random stuff. And it was like this thundering th realization, girl, you are a writer and you always have been. And actually, you should just put your money where your mouth is and back yourself like you coach all these people to do for themselves, you know?
You've been doing it all along.
What was that?
You've been doing it all along.
Yeah, but not in the way of like, yeah, really backing yourself to self-publish a book. I mean, not only is it not a spreadsheet and, you know, corporate and all that stuff, but it doesn't really make you money. Like it costs you money. Like it costs so much time and you know, that's why like to do this, you have to love the process or there's no point doing it, you know?
Just on that, for me, English is my second language, so it was always an issue about being able to speak. But part of the theme of my book is about women speaking, because it's the theme about my mother not being able to speak, and that's sort of the whole thing. So there's the writing is the speaking, and it's that transition to say I can speak.
Absolutely. And my
Yeah,
whole life was changed because of one sentence, one secret that was held for 40 years. And
yeah,
so it's about that speaking the truth, you know,
yeah,
and having the agency and the, you know, whatever to do that, you know.
yes,
Like that's a privilege in itself, just that
it
ability
is.
to do that, you know.
Yeah, yeah, and I can speak a truth. Like I don't have to hide
No.
anymore. And so yeah,
Yeah, no, it's very liberating, right? Yeah.
very much so. And I think good for other people too. I think the feedback I got from people of Italian descent or other people that they thanked me for writing it because it's sort of telling their story that they haven't been able to, because stories are very universal, even though we think it's our own story. But so just having something that someone else can say, "Hey, that's my story too," not in exactly the same way, but similar. So I think that's a
The
privilege.
connection that we're going for. I mean, with Danielle's
Yeah,
book as well, the connection
yeah,
of reaching across differences that we may have or continents or whatever to connect on a similar schema or a similar like that's what how we don't feel alone in the world, you
Yes.
know?
Yeah.
That's right.
Sense of
Yes.
community, isn't it? Yeah.
Yep, that's right.
And you all have, I mean, memoirs, just as they are memoirs, there do tend to be secrets revealed, and every family has secrets, and every family has the things you don't talk about, the the son or the brother or the grandfather you don't talk about or you don't mention, and things like that. How did you go with actually delving into those family secrets and getting them out onto a page? I imagine the process must have been very emotional. Um,
Yes.
Danielle, do you want to start?
Yeah, so I had my brother come home for some period of time and I was looking after him and I just needed to find a way to be able to process what I was going through. When you live it from a young age, you kind of normalize the abnormal and you start
Mhm.
to accept things that other people wouldn't accept as being this is just how things are. But living in that moment as an adult and with my own children, I knew that these things weren't right.
Mhm.
Um, but there's so many complex situations to it. You know, I've got my parents to consider in the process.
Mhm.
So writing for me was just a way to, I guess, immortalize what I was going through and being it a way for it to be undeniably there.
Mhm.
I initially probably started writing it down for my parents, just so that they could read it back and be able to acknowledge what they were going through and what was happening.
Mhm.
And from that, I found it was so, yeah, like you said, liberating. And there was a freedom in being able to let go of the guilt that was holding me hostage to all of that I had lived through.
Mhm.
I never intended to publish it. Once it was sort of put together, I thought I would just send it out to a few places and see what happens. It was never its that was never the purpose of writing it. But once I started to go down the track of other people reading my story, accepting it, the conversations that came about, I started to see that it was not a story that was I should be keeping private anymore. It was a story I should let other people know and experience. So much of my life is spent, keeping things quiet and not talking about what's happening, and the unhidden where is your brother and what's going on. And there's no understanding in that. And there's really no value in that. We should be able to own our story, be able to tell our truth, and have those people who need to hear it, and those who aren't interested to walk away. But for me, it's been liberating to be able to share my story and to have other people say that the vulnerability and the honesty is what got them. I was hoping it would be responded to as an honest story because it was the truth. I haven't felt judgment from it of people that have read it. If anything, people have been shocked that they've known me and not known this story for so long. But it's also opened up other people to be able to come to me and say, I've lived a similar story. I'm going through something similar. Thank you for giving me the courage to have a voice and to be able to speak. And it's kind of taking me down that path, which I'm finding extremely rewarding at the moment.
Oh, that's good. Well, that's the thing about secrets. They live in silence, don't they? So it takes the power out of them to talk about them.
Yeah. And sometimes it's not your secret to always share. Like, for me, I never felt the need to keep it a secret, but I did that out of respect for my parents and, their community that they live. We grew up in small country towns. It wasn't something that, was readily shared. So there was only a very few people who lived this life and this story with us. So I guess there's not many secrets exposed. It's just that people wouldn't have even known the story existed.
Angelina, what about yourself?
Oh, I think because of my age, I sort of was very a bit distant, not distant from it, but I didn't. I just because my parents had died, and I was sort of a bit sort of not distant, but I just wanted to record it, and that sort of balance about how raw you are is an interesting one in memoir because you don't want to be so raw that the reader is just overwhelmed, but you want to be honest and vulnerable so that you can actually communicate the emotions and what's going on. So I found that a really interesting balance, but particularly about talking about really traumatic things. So that was a real challenge in writing the memoir, and there was a lot of editing to just to make sure that balance was okay. Because it can get too heavy, I think. So and I put some humor in it so that people sort of could sort of get a bit of relief from it. So no, I found it like a really good thing, and my family have found it like a wonderful thing. Like I've had cousins saying I never knew any of this. I've had my brother sort of just say thank you for doing this. I've had a really really positive reaction, and I've actually started conversations. People have started conversations about finding out what's going on. I'll just add a little bit. The byline of my book is Inheriting the Unspoken. So while there are secrets, we can try to ignore them, but they come out. So intergenerational trauma, I wanted to talk about that. I wanted to talk about the fact that trauma is inherited, and I think Bo or Danielle's talking about breaking the cycle. So even though there are secrets, they come out in a different way.
Bo?
Yeah, it's funny listening to Angelina talk about that because I just put my writing on Facebook. I put my secrets on Facebook for my audience of thousands. And I did it because already been doing that. I'd already been doing that before all of this family trauma came to the fore. And so it was like, well, why would I gatekeep who I am now? These are the great taboos of the world that we do not talk about in polite Western society, So the secret, and it's been funny what Danielle said. I hold a lot of space for people now. Every time I do another post about that stuff, I hold space for people for 2 weeks sometimes, private messaging me, sharing their stories, because we don't talk about it. And so I think that that's part of my job here on the planet, actually, is to, talk about the things we don't talk about, like I talk about abuse and trauma and how to overcome those things. And I talk very publicly about money and, things that, yeah, we shouldn't, and ethics, things that we kind of shy away from because, especially on social media, now.
Mhm.
But that's just been my job there as well. I've that's why, like it wasn't me who called me a cultural fire starter first, but I kind of like
That's a great line.
I had to admit that I like to set fire to things, that old constructs and old ways of thinking. Like we're forging a new world here. I truly believe that, so if that means we've got to bust some taboos while we do it, then that's how we do it, But there's a great freedom in that too, that like everything, like as Danny said, like everything's true. And so actually I'll stand up in court and say anything that's in that book, you know what I mean? Like in my book, I lived every minute of that. So
Yeah.
there's nothing to hide then, there's something, yeah, really powerful about that, after, especially when you've come from an environment of secrets, when you've come
Definitely.
from an environment where it's all squished and everybody's, keeping the peace, to refuse to live like that, to encourage everyone around you to not live like that. Like it's honestly addictive. Yeah. So yeah, I live with a lot of raw authenticity, a lot of not brutal truth, but honesty and integrity. Like yeah. And I didn't get that from my upbringing,
Yep.
Mm.
So, memoirist, I'm going to take a little bit of that bow and think about, what each of you have mentioned, how honest and what, how personal these stories are. Because with memoir and with memory, do you rely on your memories, and are they something to trust or something to interrogate? And I suspect all of you would go interrogate, interrogate, interrogate. So, if you have been interrogating your memories and sharing them and looking and pulling them apart and seeing how they all fit together, my question is, how has it changed you as a person? How has writing the memoir, be it short, long form, be it over years or over, a short period, gathering it together and shaping it, how has it changed you as a person? What do you think it's done for your own sense of self?
Well, for me, it's given me my identity back. For so long, I didn't know who I was if I wasn't, my brother's sister living this life. I did, you know, but being able to tell my story, there's a whole side of me that other people have never known about. I guess it explains a lot of me. Knowing that story explains why I do things the way I've done them, why I see things the way I see them. But I just feel free. For so long, I've lived with this inability to explain things authentically to people for not wanting to disgrace the family, not wanting to bring shame, but being able to now speak freely and own my story it's an amazing feeling. There is a lot of power involved in that, and I don't feel like I need to hide anymore. I'm not afraid of judgment. I'm not afraid of what people think. If anything, I feel it's made me stronger. And I don't know how else to explain it, but a freeing feeling, a feeling of just being like, I've let it all out there now. There's nothing more that's hidden in the closet.
Fantastic.
Love that.
Thanks, Danielle. Angelina, what about yourself?
I think for me, because it was such a big thing in my life, is speaking up because of my culture and my upbringing, and because of just I lived in a household where people, as Bo said, you don't speak. So just the ability to reveal myself. And I worked in corporate for forever, and I couldn't talk about my culture and I couldn't talk about my history. Imagine telling someone, in corporate that your grandfather was a fascist. Honestly, that would be a good sort of interesting career move. But so being able to really be honest about my history it's been wonderful. And I'm really like being quite honoured with the reaction I've had from people that they've said, "Oh, I wish you'd told us earlier about all this." So it's been a really good thing, that acceptance that I could be incredibly authentic. So that's been a good thing. Also, I think part of writing the book was to reconcile the thing between anger and compassion. We can be really angry with parents and grandparents and all that sort of stuff, but just that, coming to a place of real compassion for them, and a real understanding that, sometimes people are doing the best they can with what they have, at that particular point in life. And hopefully that's the message of the book. And if I can sort of, if people get that message, just to have also compassion. So,
Yeah, fantastic. Bo.
Yeah, it's funny that Angelina's last word was compassion, because that was the main word that I felt for myself when I finished this book, for little me, little me who didn't know any better growing up. And I'm in the middle of it, I'm living it and whatever, but then you publish a book and there's this thing, that's got the whole thing from end to end, and it's all together, and then all these other people are digesting it like that, and some of them don't even know and yeah, the reflections that I got, and just, yeah, going through it, I just really do have a lot of compassion for younger me. And yeah, she didn't know a lot. She didn't know a lot of things, didn't know I was ADHD until recently. Typed this entire book with two fingers because I can't touch type. Also dyslexic, yeah, there was a few barriers, but creator's gonna create. That's a phrase. Hater's gonna hate, creator's gonna create, and there's yeah, a lot of people willing to criticize, anyone willing to do anything, and you just gotta get in the ring, as Brené Brown says, or whoever, like you gotta actually just do the thing and listen to the other people who are doing the things, like you guys, not everyone else, not all the noise around,
Yeah.
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 So yeah, a lot of compassion, really. Generally have quite high self-esteem, being a coach and all, I put a lot of that into practice, what I preach and all of that. But yeah, really feeling like I have helped so many ephemeral events, and I've run things all over the world, and they're all gone. There's nothing to show for it. And this was like a real thing, another thing that I made, and I feel really good about that. I like a tangible thing. We live in, and especially with so much on the internet that I've done,
Yeah.
it could all end overnight, and there's nothing there all these years,
Yes.
Yeah.
So yeah, so the book writing, it just feels like I think, especially now with the currency of our attention and the bombardment of everything, we're going to see a return to the crafts, and I really hope that writing and all the crafts come to the fore. Yeah, we can't lose these beautiful art forms,
No, definitely
Yeah.
not. I will just say, Bo, I spent last weekend before at the Lost Trades Fair
Oh
up at
yeah.
Hanging Rock, and it was brilliant. It was like fields and fields of people doing things with their hands. I
Yes.
mean, there was a guy making books as well, but there was trades of all sorts of descriptions, and yeah, that was brilliant. And not a single iPhone inside, which was
Hey.
fantastic. And no Zoom, no whiteboards, nothing. It was all hands-on, and just some beautiful art being made. Yeah. Yeah. All right, Laurie,
I
your
was
shop.
just going to say, jumping off from that, your question there, Bo, or your answer, Bo, what would you tell your younger self? I mean, memoirs are all about ourselves. What would you tell your younger self about writing the book and having that be seen to be seen? What would you tell your younger self?
Um, I'd actually tell her to run.
Straight to the typewriter or out the door?
Yeah.
Just away. I'd tell her to run away and to go and be free, because it took me many years to hear the sentence that finally would. And I'd really tortured myself for a long time before I heard it, because I knew something was up. I just didn't know what. Like we're very intuitive most humans, we just don't trust our gut. And I knew something was up. So yeah, that's where the compassion comes in. Like, yeah, just I've been able to do some incredible healing in the last decade, and really, really dropped into my true self, because I have all the information now. And that was also where the book, like I feel bulletproof almost, the healing that I've done. Do you know what I mean? Nothing will ever come close to the grief, that nothing in my life will ever come close to that grief that I've already been through. Like I can guarantee it. So I cried every day for a year. So on the other side of that has to be some sort of alchemy, right? Like you have to burn it all down. And I think like this is a lot where memoir comes from. It comes from some seed, that we cannot leave, that we must uncover, that we must water, we must. And that compulsion is what makes a book.
I love that
Book,
poem.
Yeah, without it, you haven't got a book.
So true. So, Danielle, what would you tell your younger self, having gone through the process of writing your first book?
Yeah, I would say not to doubt myself. Growing up, a lot of people told me that I should write a book one day, and I always would just laugh that off with, "Oh, okay, sure, that'll happen." But becoming an author actually did happen quite by accident, but it did actually happen. So I would tell my younger self not to dismiss the potential that others see in you and to embrace it, believe in yourself, and know that you can achieve anything you set your mind to, and that there will always be people who doubt you, but there are also people who believe in you, and you just need to choose which ones you want to listen to.
Yes. Very nicely put. I love it.
Yes.
Angelina, what would you tell your younger self?
Oh, I think it's a hard one because I don't like looking back. I really I think if you go through stuff, I had this sort of thing of just looking forward. So, but I think I would tell myself that regardless of anything, my time will come, and it will come at the right time and the right message, and that that all in the past has meaning and richness and a depth that I'll discover one day when I'm ready. So I think yeah, there's a wisdom in my past that I will find at a later time.
Oh, I like that.
Nice. All right, let's switch it out a little bit because our writers who are listeners also want to know, how do you get the book done? What is the process of? So you've told us about the story and you've told us about some of the emotions and the way you felt, but let's get really practical. Are you morning or evening writers, or all the way through the day? Do you write in noisy cafes, quiet rooms? Is it a glass of water, a glass of wine, a cup of coffee? How long did it take you? All those kind of things. So just to mix it up, Angelina, let's start with you. What's your writing process?
Oh, I'm really bad to admit I'd write in bed, but
What a joy! In bed,
I love
fantastic.
with a cup of coffee and a laptop
Nice.
on my lap. I just love that whole. That's my place. It's my area. So I'm in my space. But yeah, I just write whatever it comes in. I just write and then I'll put it together. So I'll write whatever's there. Yeah.
Beautiful.
And then sort it out later.
Yeah. Very good. All right, Danielle, what about yourself? What's your process look like?
Yeah, look, I guess my husband would say one of my flaws is that once I start something, I have to keep going. I can't stop until it's finished. Everything else just fades away and it becomes a bit of an obsession. But when I was writing Life in Instalments, I'd often shut myself away in my room, and I too would spend a lot of time writing in bed. It wasn't great for my posture, but it was clearly effective. But I started with just one small story in a big story at a time. I never wrote in a chronological order. I just wrote as the stories came to me, and then worried about putting it all together in some sort of fashion towards the end. But I wrote, I guess, the incidents that were stuck with me the most, to get those out, and then moved on to the next one. Yeah. and then just waited for it to sort of fall into place. I guess when you're
Fantastic.
writing about something that you've lived, the story kind of writes itself, really. Once you
Yeah.
start the process,
Yeah.
it moves gradually, easily to the next part.
Yeah, for sure. Are you a tea or coffee person? Did it take a glass of wine? Was it a
No. Well, look, my Italian heritage came out, and I
e-
don't mind having a little antipasto plate alongside me, and so I can sip
excellent?
away while I'm eating.
Nice.
But no, not a tea or coffee. That would have kept me up. So
Ah, fair enough. Yes, yeah. Although I find if there's snacks and I'm writing, I turn around and think, oh, I've eaten that whole plate. What a shame.
yeah, it's just gone.
It's just gone.
Yeah.
Yeah. Ah, very good. All right. What about you, Bo? What's your writing process involve?
Yeah, listening to you guys talk about snacks, I'm like, no way, man. Snacks are the reward. We get snacks after. Like there's no way
Yeah.
I eat and write. There's no way. The eating is its own thing. But yeah, so I think I was funny listening to like the setting and everything. I can write anywhere, anytime if I know what I'm writing. But if I don't know, then I become tortured. I become pacing. I become walking in the nature and listening to 100 podcasts and like, what the hell am I writing next? And then if I know what I'm writing, I can write on my phone in the car, or I can write in a storm. I can write anywhere. But if I don't know what I'm writing, which is where I currently am, in the timeline, I'm like, oh, is there a process I could do where I would come? And I don't know that there is one.
I wish
I
there was
wish.
one.
Yes, yeah. It's very individual.
Yeah, but the one thing I have noticed is that when I go overseas, I travel alone a lot, and I'm just a channel. Just as soon as I'm not in my regular environment, the stuff comes. So yeah, I have actually, yeah, I've worked out that I kind of need to be away, from the regular routine to sort of dig in. I can still write here and everything, but yeah, to really resolve something, I feel like I need to be elsewhere.
I can see a cottage on the shores of Ireland somewhere quiet with you,
Yeah,
a
there's like a
fireplace and
Clydesdale. Yeah, yeah.
yes, 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 I
Nice.
can see inspiration pouring through the thatched roof.
Yeah,
Yes,
yeah.
fantastic.
I've got like a long dress draping into
Yes.
the
Oh,
mud.
yes.
Yeah.
Yes, a little bit of mist.
The wind blowing. Yeah.
Totally.
That would be beautiful. Oh,
Yes.
yeah, that's my dream.
Ugh. So, debut books, memoir. What's next? What are you working on anything next? Is it a one book and done? Are you finding more stories in your histories to go through, or is something else on the horizon, Angelina?
I've got two things on the horizon that I'm writing at the same time, but I thought I'd really sort of go back, do something completely. It sounds very idiotic because I've never done it before, but I'm writing a screenplay about,
Hey, cool.
yeah, so I'm doing a lot of research on it at the moment, just trying to get a little bit authentic. And I won't say what it's about, but yeah, so I'm sort of doing that. It's to do with Italian history and just examining relationships in Italian history. So I'm doing that. And I'm writing a book which is about corporate life, and it's fictionalized to make sure I don't get sued when I write it. So
Important. Don't
it
lose that
is important.
superannuation, do we? No.
So I've sort of got two things on the go, and they're very, very different. So enjoying both of them at the moment. So I'm in also with a memoir group, so which is a really good way to make you write because you have to present chapters every now and again. So it gives you the impetus to do things and complete things. So which has been a good thing. So yeah, no, I'm having fun. So it's been good.
Good. Danielle?
Yeah, I've in a few groups where we are working on writing just fictional stories, writing a chapter each and continuing. But once I released my book, it opened up a lot of avenues for me and revealed some things I didn't know. So I've actually got a few more stories left to tell, and I'm
Excellent.
working on another book at the moment. The idea is also to write a second book, hopefully in conjunction with my brother once he's available, and more to be able for him to have his voice in the events that I talked about in my story, because that was
Amazing.
effectively my story,
Mhm.
and there's obviously his version to that story as well.
What an
Yeah,
amazing idea.
Love that.
fantastic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Bo, what are you working on?
I am stuck. I'm halfway through. I'm halfway through the next book. I've got
Mhm.
30,000 words written of the next book, and I'm stuck. And I,
Such a tough space.
I've edited it so well, and I love everything that's in the first half.
Mhm.
But the tricky thing for me is that it's where the first book was about how I turned shit into diamonds, the next book is about how we all do that in the current timeline. And the timeline
That's tough.
keeps getting weirder, very weird and
Yeah.
extreme. So I think it's just too close right now. I think there needs to be some time and I maybe need to go away.
Get some space,
But I'm excited.
mentally and physically. Yeah.
I am excited about the next book. I feel really good about making an offering that's more not so internal landscape, that is more for other people. And yeah, I'm looking forward to finishing, or going through the process. And yeah, I'm sort of looking forward to publishing another book, but yeah, the year of promo that I did, the hard year of like slogging promo after was really hard. And I'm ADHD, so I gave it a year and now I'm bored and now I'm writing another book, because I mean, how long are you really going to promote your memoir for? Do you know what I mean? Like, I don't know. Like, a bit like Angelina. I like to look forward. I don't want to keep going back.
Mhm.
So, yeah. So my answer to that is, and the other thing about being an author is I think, an author writes books, plural, more than one book. So, I mean, everyone who's published their first book, that's an amazing achievement. And I think to actually be an author, you've got to keep writing, you know?
Yes.
Very
Agreed.
good.
So I'm doing
Yeah.
it.
Awesome.
So we're going to move on now. Final question. Advice for new authors. You are all published authors. You're all working on the next book or two or three or screenplay. What is your advice for
Yes.
new authors? Bo, let's go with you.
Yeah, just like keep going because there's some statistic that 83% of people want to write a book and the number of people who actually self-publish is less than 1%.
Yeah.
So it's like this thing on earth that everybody does need to have permission, and I don't write for months at a time and then I'll bash out 10,000 words. Like that's my process as well. I can't sit down and do a nice little tidy 1,000 words a day. That is not how my brain works.
Mhm.
I wish I could. So yeah, I would just tell people to fight through the imposter syndrome and keep going and hold true to your vision because actually if you're self-publishing you can write whatever you want. You can write whatever you want. And that is, incredibly liberating and maybe also terrifying, but it's yeah, worth doing. And anyone who can talk can write. So that's the other thing I say to people. If you want to write a book, just whip out the phone and start voice to dictaphoning, voice to text, because yeah, the old idea of being a tortured person in your dark thing with the typewriter and everything, it doesn't necessarily have to look like that. Although
Very
some
different these days. Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure. But good advice, Bo. Good advice. Angelina, what about you? Advice for new authors.
I'd say write your first draft for yourself, but write the second draft for your reader. So that sort of difference between your first and your final
Mm.
is the process that you've got to have the patience of Job with, because I think by the end of mine with the editing, I actually got bored with my own book by the end of it because you're editing so much, like you
Reading it
really
over and
are.
over. Yep.
Yes, so you're looking at words and flow and sort of narrative arcs and all the rest of it. So just enjoy the first draft and just write it because you want to write it for yourself and love it and love it. Really enjoy the process, but just be patient with them. If you're going to publish it, the next process needs patience and discipline and all those things that you don't usually associate creative arts with, but it's really important.
For sure. Yep. Good advice as well. Danielle, what about you?
Well, actually, the most useful advice I ever received came from my dad, actually, when I was in high school. We had to write a speech for this literary class, and the topics were obscure and cryptic, clearly designed to stretch our creativity. I had no idea what any of them even meant, or let alone what to write about, so I asked my dad, and he simply said, write about what you know. And I think it's the most sound advice I've ever received. And as a teacher now myself, it's the same advice I'd give to my students. Start with what's familiar, what's real, and the rest will follow. And to just start anywhere. It doesn't have to be at the beginning, but just right. We live the stories, we breathe the stories, and the most important thing is to just get it down on paper. And once it's there, you can shape it and refine it and let it grow. But to just start.
Yeah.
More
Yeah.
excellent advice.
Yeah.
This is,
And
fantastic.
yeah. And certainly with memoir, I bet the main question any new writer with a memoir is that who would want to read my story? And all three of you have shown there is an audience. There is an audience out there for any kind of story. And those people will tell you, oh my God, I can't believe I felt so connected to the story that you told. So it just shows how important it is as a genre.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah.
Brilliant. All right. Quickly, where can we find you on the interwebs? Where can people find your book and yourself, Danielle?
Yes, so you could find it on Amazon, on any online bookstores. I have my webpage or my socials if you just Googled my name.
Beautiful.
So,
All right.
Excellent.
And Angelina?
Oh, probably same as Danielle, Amazon, Ingram, Apple. You can also go to my website and order through there. So, and I'm also doing some library talks in Sydney. So,
Brilliant.
if you go to my Instagram, you'll find where I'm doing some library talks, and that will be very enjoyable to meet. I love actually meeting people who actually buy a book. So it's actually one of the pleasures of being an author.
It is. When someone takes your book and they've got it in their hand, they're excited, as excited as you. It's hard to.
It's hard to beat.
It is hard to beat. Yeah. Bo, best spot to find you online.
Yeah, bokitty.com, like the others, and my book's available everywhere as well. And the audiobook is everywhere, narrated by yours truly.
Yay.
So yeah, it's on all the platforms everywhere.
Brilliant. All right. So thank you to Bo Kitty, author of Always Eat the Weird Stuff, Danielle Sartorelli, Life in Instalments, and Angelina Mastrippolito, Le Seconde. That's not bad for my Italian.
Le Seconde. So,
Le
but
Seconde.
Le Seconde is fine.
A little bit more emotion behind it there. Thank you very much. All right. When we finish up, we like to remind our readers to read more Aussie books. Could you say that with us? Read more Aussie books. So remember to
read more
Aussie books.
Excellent.
Yay.
Thanks, everybody.
Yay.
And bye
Thank
for
you.
now.
Thanks
Bye
for
for
having
now.
me. Bye.
Let's meet again when magic happens.